My brother Tyler had his fiancée ban me from their rehearsal dinner because I refused to dye my hair a different color for their wedding photos. 2 days later, the venue manager called me with information that would make Madison wish she'd never crossed me. But was revenge really worth destroying my brother's big day? I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. I stared at my phone, reading the text message for the third time. The words hadn't changed. Madison and I have decided it's best if you skip the rehearsal dinner. We'll see you at the ceremony. Tyler. No explanation, no apology. Just a cold dismissal from the brother I'd spent 28 years protecting, defending, and supporting through every bad decision and failed relationship. Until Madison Reed walked into his life 6 months ago and turned him into someone I barely recognized. My hands trembled as I typed back. What did I do? The 3 dots appeared immediately. At least he had the decency to respond quickly. Madison thinks your hair color will clash with her vision for the wedding photos. She asked you nicely to change it temporarily, and you refused. She's stressed enough without dealing with this. I actually laughed out loud in my empty apartment. My hair, my natural auburn hair that I'd had my entire life, was the problem. Madison had cornered me at their engagement party 3 weeks ago, drink in hand, and casually mentioned that redheads didn't photograph well with her chosen color palette of dusty rose and sage green. She'd suggested I go blonde or brunette for the wedding. When I politely declined, explaining I wasn't comfortable dyeing my hair for someone else's aesthetic, she'd smiled that tight, controlled smile and said we'd discuss it later. Apparently, discuss it later meant get banned from pre-wedding events. I called Tyler immediately. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice already defensive. Olivia, I don't want to argue about this. You're uninviting me from your rehearsal dinner because of my hair color? I kept my voice steady, professional. I worked in crisis management. I knew how to stay calm when I wanted to scream. It's not just about the hair, Tyler said, and I could hear Madison's voice in the background. Madison feels like you've been undermining her wedding planning from the beginning. You questioned her choice of venue. You made comments about the budget. I asked if you were comfortable spending $40,000 on a wedding when you just bought a house. I interrupted. That's not undermining. That's being your sister. That's caring about your financial future. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. His voice rose. You always think you know what's best for me. Madison is right. You need to learn boundaries. Madison was right. The phrase that had become Tyler's mantra over the past 6 months. Madison was right about moving the wedding date up. Madison was right about having a destination bachelor party in Vegas. Madison was right about choosing her cousin as best man instead of Tyler's childhood friend. And now, apparently, Madison was right about excluding me. The rehearsal dinner is family only. I said quietly. Mom and Dad will be devastated if I'm not there. Mom and Dad will understand. Madison's parents are paying for everything, so they get final say on the guest list. He paused. Look, just dye your hair, Liv. Is it really worth all this drama? Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, final break. You're right, I said. It's not worth the drama. Have a nice rehearsal dinner, Tyler. I hung up before he could respond and immediately texted my parents. They deserved to hear this from me before Tyler spun whatever story Madison had crafted. My mom called within minutes, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. Not at me, at Tyler and Madison. My dad got on the line too, and together they assured me they'd handle it, that they'd talk to Tyler, that this was ridiculous. But I knew how this would play out. Madison would cry, Tyler would defend her. My parents would be painted as unsupportive of their son's marriage. And I would be the difficult sister who couldn't just go along to get along. I spent that evening doing what I always did when stressed. I worked. I had a client presentation due next week, and throwing myself into damage control strategies for a pharmaceutical company's PR crisis was easier than thinking about my own family drama. Around 9 p.m., my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Olivia Jackson? A man's voice. Professional but slightly nervous. Yes. Who's calling? This is Derek Sullivan. I'm the events manager at Riverside Estate. I have your brother Tyler's wedding on file, and, well, he hesitated. This is highly unusual, but I felt you should know something before Saturday. My crisis management instincts kicked in immediately. When someone says, "You should know something," it's never good news. What's going on, Mr. Sullivan? I overheard a conversation this afternoon between Madison and her maid of honor. They were finalizing rehearsal dinner arrangements. He paused again, and I could hear the discomfort in his voice. Miss Jackson, I've been in this business for 15 years. I've seen a lot of family dynamics, and what I heard today crossed several ethical lines. I don't typically get involved in client personal matters, but your brother mentioned you work in crisis management, and I thought, what did you hear? I sat up straighter, my laptop forgotten. Madison was laughing about how easy it was to convince Tyler to exclude you from the rehearsal dinner. She told her maid of honor that this was just the beginning. She has a plan to gradually distance Tyler from your entire family after the wedding. She specifically mentioned wanting to move to Seattle next year for her job, knowing that Tyler would have to leave his position here. She said, and I quote, "Once we're across the country, I won't have to deal with his overprotective sister or his overbearing parents anymore." The room felt suddenly cold. I'd suspected Madison was controlling, but this was different. This was calculated. There's more, Derek continued. She mentioned something about Tyler's grandmother's ring. Apparently, Tyler wanted to use it for the engagement, but Madison insisted on choosing her own ring. She told her friend that she already sold your grandmother's ring to a jeweler downtown last month and used the money for her bachelorette party in Miami. Tyler doesn't know. My grandmother's ring. The one Tyler had been so excited to use, the one that had been in our family for 3 generations. Madison had sold it. For a bachelorette party. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because I have a younger sister, Derek said simply. And if someone was trying to isolate her from her family, I'd want to know. What you do with this information is up to you, Miss Jackson. But I thought you deserved the truth. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my apartment for a long time. I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Tell Tyler and risk him thinking I was lying out of spite. Stay silent and watch my brother get manipulated into cutting off his family. Expose Madison and potentially ruin their wedding. Or find another way. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Tyler called. He's standing firm. I don't even recognize him anymore. That's when I made my decision. I opened my laptop and started researching. If Madison wanted to play games, she'd picked the wrong family to manipulate. I worked in crisis management for a reason. I knew how to gather information, how to document, evidence, and how to present a case that couldn't be denied. But first, I needed proof. Derek's word was a start, but I needed more. I needed something concrete that would make Tyler see the truth before he legally bound himself to someone who was systematically working to destroy his relationships with everyone who loved him. I grabbed my phone and texted Derek. Can we meet tomorrow? I need to ask you some questions about what else you might have heard or seen. And I need names of any vendors who might have witnessed similar conversations. His response came quickly. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., Riverside Estate, my office. Come to the side entrance. I spent the next 3 hours creating a detailed timeline of every interaction between Madison and our family, every red flag I'd noticed, every moment where Tyler had changed his mind about something after talking to her. I documented conversations, saved screenshots of text messages, and made notes of every concerning incident. By midnight, I had a folder full of documented concerns, but documentation wasn't enough. I needed a strategy. I needed to present this information in a way that Tyler couldn't dismiss as jealousy or sisterly interference. I needed to make him see the pattern without making him defensive. And most importantly, I needed to do it before Saturday's wedding. Because once they were married, Madison's plan to isolate him would be much easier to execute. Once they were legally bound, moving across the country would just be a matter of time. I looked at the calendar on my wall. Today was Tuesday. The rehearsal dinner was Friday night. The wedding was Saturday afternoon. I had less than 4 days to save my brother from making the biggest mistake of his life. 4 days to gather evidence, build a case, and find a way to show Tyler the truth. 4 days to decide if I was willing to risk being labeled the villain who tried to ruin her brother's wedding. 4 days to choose between keeping the peace and protecting my family. I set my alarm for 7 a.m. and tried to sleep. But all I could think about was Derek's words. Madison was laughing about how easy it was to convince Tyler to exclude you. And somewhere in the darkness, a plan began to form. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. Wednesday morning arrived with gray skies and the kind of drizzle that matched my mood perfectly. I pulled into the parking lot of Riverside Estate at 9:45, 15 minutes early. The venue looked different in daylight, less magical than it had when Tyler first showed me photos. Now it just looked like the place where my family was about to fall apart. I texted Derek from my car. "I'm here. Side entrance?" His reply was immediate. "Gray door next to the loading dock. It's unlocked. Second floor, office 212. The building's interior was elegant but understated, with cream walls and dark hardwood floors. I climbed the stairs, my heels echoing in the empty hallway. Office 212 had Derek's name on a brass plate. I knocked twice. The man who opened the door was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with tired eyes and the careful demeanor of someone who'd learned to keep secrets for a living. He gestured me inside quickly, checking the hallway before closing the door. "Miss Jackson, thank you for coming. Please, sit." He motioned to a chair across from his desk, which was covered in vendor contracts and floor plans. "I didn't sleep much last night, wondering if I'd done the right thing by calling you." "You did the right thing," I said firmly. "But I need to understand exactly what you heard. Details matter." Derek nodded and pulled out a small notebook. I started writing everything down after we talked. Madison and her maid of honor, Chelsea Brennan, arrived here yesterday around 2 p.m. to confirm rehearsal dinner arrangements. I was in the adjacent wine cellar doing inventory when they came into the storage hallway. They didn't know I was there. He flipped open his notebook. "Chelsea asked Madison if she felt bad about excluding you." Madison laughed and said, "Are you kidding? This is phase 1. Tyler's sister has been a problem since day 1, always questioning everything, always acting like she knows what's best for him." Then Chelsea said something like, "Won't Tyler be upset?" And Madison said, "Tyler will get over it. He always does what I want eventually." My hands clenched in my lap. Hearing it detailed like this made it worse somehow. "That's when Madison mentioned the Seattle plan," Derek continued. "She said she'd already accepted a position with a tech company there starting in March. She hasn't told Tyler yet. She said she'd present it as a great opportunity for both of them after the honeymoon, but she knows Tyler's job here doesn't have remote options. She specifically said, he'll have to choose between his career here and our marriage. And we all know what he'll choose. Did she mention anyone else in my family?" Derek's expression darkened. "Yes, she complained about your parents wanting to contribute financially to the wedding. She said she made sure her parents paid for everything specifically so Tyler's family would have no say in decisions. She called your mother suffocating and your father passive-aggressive. She told Chelsea that once they're in Seattle, she'll make sure Tyler only comes back for major holidays. If that." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "I need you to repeat everything you just told me. Are you willing to do that?" Derek hesitated, then nodded. "I'll do it. But I need to tell you something else first. About the ring." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" Madison told Chelsea she sold it to Prestige Jewelers on 4th Street. She seemed proud of herself. She said Tyler had been way too sentimental about using his grandmother's ring, that it was old-fashioned and didn't fit her aesthetic. She got $8,000 for it and put the money toward her bachelorette trip. She told Chelsea, "What Tyler doesn't know won't hurt him. Besides, he'll be too busy being married to care about some old family heirloom." $8,000. My grandmother's ring. The ring my grandfather had saved for months to buy in 1952. The ring that had been passed down through 3 generations. Gone. Sold like it was nothing. "Did anyone else hear this conversation?" I asked, forcing myself to stay focused. "Possibly Rachel Kim, our catering coordinator. She was setting up in the main hall around the same time. And the florist, Jennifer Walsh, was doing a final walkthrough. They might have overheard parts of it." Madison and Chelsea weren't exactly being quiet. I recorded Derek's full statement, every detail, every quote. When we finished, he gave me contact information for Rachel and Jennifer, warning me that they might be hesitant to get involved. "One more thing," Derek said as I stood to leave. "Madison's been difficult with all the vendors. She changed the menu 4 times, demanded refunds she wasn't entitled to, and accused our sommelier of trying to upsell her when he was just doing his job. Rachel almost quit last week because of how Madison spoke to her staff. I've worked hundreds of weddings, Miss Jackson. I can usually tell which marriages will last. This one? It's built on control and manipulation, not love." I thanked Derek and left through the side entrance, my mind already working through next steps. First, I needed to find that ring. Even if I couldn't get it back, confirming Derek's story about the jeweler would give me concrete proof. Prestige Jewelers was a small shop in the historic district, the kind of place that specialized in estate jewelry and custom designs. A bell chimed as I entered. The owner, an older man with wire-rimmed glasses, greeted me from behind the counter. "Good morning. How can I help you?" I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo of the ring, one I'd taken at a family dinner 2 years ago when my grandmother had shown it to us. "I'm looking for this ring. I believe it was sold to you recently by someone named Madison Reed." Recognition flashed across his face. "Ah, yes. Beautiful piece. Art Deco setting, if I recall. The young woman who sold it said it was from her grandmother's estate. She lied," I said flatly. "It's my grandmother's ring. My brother gave it to his fiancée as an engagement ring, and she sold it without his knowledge or permission. Do you still have it?" The jeweler's expression shifted from friendly to concerned. "I'm afraid I sold it last week. A couple from Austin bought it for their daughter. They were very pleased with it." My heart sank, but I pressed on. "I need documentation of the transaction. Date, sale price, the seller's information. This is potentially theft, and I'm gathering evidence." He hesitated. "I'd need to see some form of proof that you have a legitimate claim to." I showed him more photos. "My grandmother is wearing it. My grandfather proposed with it in an old black and white photograph. The ring's inscription, which I'd memorized. Forever begins today, 1952. "Let me check my records," he said quietly. 10 minutes later, I left the jeweler with copies of the transaction records. Madison had indeed sold the ring on October 15th for $8,000. She'd signed a form claiming she was the rightful owner. The jeweler had given me everything, including security camera footage showing Madison in his shop, laughing as she pocketed the check. By noon, I'd contacted Rachel Kim and Jennifer Walsh. Rachel confirmed hearing Madison mock my family and discuss the Seattle move. Jennifer had heard the comment about the ring. Both agreed to provide written statements, though both asked that I keep their involvement confidential until after the wedding. They still had to work with Madison for 2 more days. I spent Wednesday afternoon in my apartment, organizing everything into a presentation. Not an emotional plea, not a sister's desperate attempt to save her brother. A comprehensive, professionally documented case showing a pattern of manipulation, deception, and financial misconduct. By Wednesday evening, I had audio recordings, witness statements, transaction records, security footage, and a timeline that painted a damning picture of exactly who Madison Reed was. The question was, when and how should I show Tyler? The rehearsal dinner was Friday. The wedding was Saturday. If I presented this too early, Madison might convince him I'd fabricated everything. Too late, and he might feel trapped into going through with the wedding anyway. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Mom's upset. Dad's upset. This is supposed to be a happy time. Why is everyone making this so hard?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Can we meet tomorrow? Just you and me. Please. It's important." The response came 20 minutes later. "Fine. Thursday lunch. Giovanni's at noon." "But Liv, if this is about the hair thing, I'm not changing my mind." I looked at the folder on my desk, thick with evidence. Tomorrow at noon, I would either save my brother or lose him forever. There was no middle ground anymore. Thursday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. after barely sleeping. The evidence folder sat on my kitchen table like a loaded gun. I'd rehearsed what I would say to Tyler at least 20 times, but every version felt wrong. Too aggressive, and he'd shut down. Too emotional, and he'd dismiss it as sisterly jealousy. I arrived at Giovanni's at 11:45. The Italian restaurant had been our family's celebration spot for years. Tyler's college graduation, my promotion, our parents' 30th anniversary. Now it might become the place where our relationship ended. Tyler walked in at 12 sharp, looking exhausted. His suit was wrinkled, and he had dark circles under his eyes. He slid into the booth across from me without smiling. "You look terrible," I said. "Wedding planning is stressful." He picked up the menu, not meeting my eyes. "Madison's been upset all week. She thinks Mom and Dad are trying to sabotage things." "They're not. They're worried about you." "Everyone's worried about me. Everyone thinks they know what's best for me." He finally looked up. "Can't anyone just be happy for me?" The waitress appeared, and we ordered quickly. After she left, silence stretched between us. I'd waited 28 years for this moment to arrive, and now I wanted to run. "Tyler, I need to show you something. Before you react, before you defend Madison, I need you to look at what I've found." His jaw tightened. "If this is about the rehearsal dinner, it's not." I pulled out my tablet and placed it on the table. "It's about information that came to me. Information you need to hear." I played Derek's recorded statement first. Tyler's face went from annoyed to confused to shocked as he listened to Madison's words about manipulating him, about planning to move to Seattle, about calling our mother suffocating. "This is fake," he said when it ended, but his voice lacked conviction. "You hired someone to—" "It's not fake. That's Derek Sullivan, the events manager at your wedding venue. He overheard Madison and her maid of honor Tuesday afternoon. I have corroborating statements from 2 other vendors who heard similar conversations." I showed him Rachel's written statement, then Jennifer's. Tyler's hands started shaking. "Madison wouldn't. She's under a lot of stress. Wedding stress makes people say things they don't mean. There's more." I pulled up the jeweler's transaction records. "Grandma's ring. The one you wanted to use for the engagement. Madison told you she wanted something more modern, right? That she wanted to choose her own ring?" He nodded slowly. "She sold it, Tyler. She took Grandma's ring to Prestige Jewelers on October 15th and sold it for $8,000. She used the money for her Miami bachelorette party. She told her, 'Friends, you were too sentimental about it.'" The color drained from his face. "No, she wouldn't do that. She knows how much that ring meant to me. To our family." I showed him the security footage. Madison, laughing in the jewelry store. Madison, counting cash. Madison, walking out with a check in her hand. Tyler pushed away from the table and stood up abruptly, knocking his water glass over. Water spread across the white tablecloth, but he didn't seem to notice. "I need to talk to her. There has to be an explanation." "Tyler, sit down. There's one more thing." "What else could there possibly be?" His voice cracked. "Madison accepted a job in Seattle. She starts in March. She hasn't told you because she plans to present it as a done deal after the honeymoon, knowing you'll have to choose between your career and your marriage." He sank back into the booth, his face gray. "How do you know that?" she told Chelsea. Derek heard her. She said, and I'm quoting, "He'll have to choose between his career here and our marriage, and we all know what he'll choose. She's planned this, Tyler. The wedding, the move, isolating you from us. It's all calculated. Our food arrived, but neither of us moved to eat." The waitress sensed the tension and retreated quickly. "Why are you doing this?" Tyler finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 2 days before my wedding. "Why now?" "Because I love you. Because I'd rather you hate me for telling you the truth than watch you marry someone who's systematically planning to cut you off from everyone who cares about you. Because Grandma's ring is gone, and your career is about to be sabotaged, and your family is about to lose you, and you deserve to know before you sign a marriage license." Tears streamed down his face. My brother, who never cried, who prided himself on staying composed, was falling apart in the middle of Giovanni's. "I thought she loved me," he whispered. "Maybe she does, in her way, but love shouldn't involve manipulation and lies. It shouldn't involve stealing from your family and planning your isolation." He wiped his eyes with his napkin. "What am I supposed to do? The wedding is Saturday." 200 guests, $40,000. Her parents paid for everything. If I call it off now, better to call it off than spend years being controlled and manipulated. Better to lose the deposits than lose yourself. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Madison. I know you're with Tyler. Whatever lies you're telling him, he won't believe you. You've already lost. I showed Tyler the message. His expression hardened. She's tracking my location, he said quietly. She installed an app on my phone last month, said it was for safety. That's not safe, Tyler. That's control. Another text came through, this time to Tyler's phone. He read it and went pale. What did she say? He showed me, your sister is trying to ruin our wedding because she can't stand to see you happy. If you love me, you'll leave right now and come home. We need to talk about her behavior. This has gone too far. Tyler stared at his phone for a long moment. Then he powered it off completely. I need to think. I need time to process this. He looked at me, his eyes red. Can I keep the evidence? I need to look at everything again. By myself. I transferred everything to his tablet. Take all the time you need. But Tyler? The rehearsal dinner is tomorrow night. The wedding is Saturday afternoon. Whatever you decide, you need to decide soon. He nodded and stood up, leaving cash on the table for both meals. I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. I can't see her right now. I don't know what I'd say. Do you want me to call Mom and Dad? Not yet. Please. I need to figure this out on my own first. He paused at the edge of the booth. Liv? Thank you. For caring enough to do this, even knowing I might hate you for it. I'd rather you hate me and be safe than love me and be miserable. He left without another word. I sat alone in the booth, staring at my untouched pasta, wondering if I'd just saved my brother or destroyed our relationship forever. My phone rang. Madison. I declined the call. She called again, and again. On the fourth call, I answered. You manipulative witch, she hissed. What did you tell him? What lies did you make up? No lies, Madison. Just the truth. About Seattle. About the ring. About your plan to isolate him from his family. Silence. Then, you can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. I have recordings, witness statements, and security footage. Would you like copies? Tyler loves me. He won't believe you over me. This wedding is happening. Then you have nothing to worry about. I hung up. I drove home in a daze, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Tomorrow was Friday, the rehearsal dinner. Tyler had less than 24 hours to decide whether to confront Madison, call off the wedding, or pretend he'd never seen the evidence. And I had no idea which choice he would make. Friday morning began with silence. No calls, no texts. Tyler had gone completely dark. I spent the hours pacing my apartment, checking my phone every 5 minutes, wondering if he was still at the hotel or if Madison had convinced him to come home. My mom called at 10 a.m., her voice tight with worry. Have you heard from Tyler? Madison called us this morning, crying. She said Tyler disappeared last night and won't answer her calls. She's threatening to cancel the wedding. He's safe, Mom. He just needs time to think. Olivia, what happened? Madison said you ambushed Tyler with lies about her. She said you're trying to sabotage their marriage because you're jealous. I showed him the truth. That's all. He needed to see who he was really marrying. Mom was quiet for a moment. What truth, honey? I told her everything. The recordings, the witness statements, Grandma's ring. Seattle. By the time I finished, Mom was crying. Oh my God, that ring. Your grandmother would be devastated. She took a shaky breath. Your father and I knew something was wrong, but we never imagined. Does Tyler believe you? I don't know. He saw all the evidence, but that doesn't mean he'll act on it. He might convince himself there's some explanation. The rehearsal dinner is at 6 tonight. If he's calling off the wedding, he needs to do it soon. People are traveling in from out of state. She paused. Olivia, whatever happens, you did the right thing. I'm proud of you. After we hung up, I sat on my couch and waited. The clock ticked toward noon, then 1 p.m., 2 p.m., still nothing. At 3:30, my phone finally rang. Tyler, Liv. His voice was hoarse, exhausted. Can you meet me at Riverside Estate? Now? Of course. Are you okay? No. But I know what I need to do. Derek's letting me use his office. I need you here when I talk to Madison. My heart raced. You're confronting her? I'm ending this. But I need backup. Someone who can't be manipulated or guilt-tripped. Please. 20 minutes later, I was walking through the side entrance of Riverside Estate. Derek met me in the hallway, his expression grim. He's in my office. Madison's on her way. She thinks they're just meeting to discuss rehearsal dinner seating arrangements. He handed me a bottle of water. For what it's worth, I think your brother is making the right choice. I've seen too many marriages start with red flags and end in divorce court. Tyler was sitting behind Derek's desk, staring at his tablet. He looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair uncombed, his dress shirt wrinkled. I watched everything 3 times, he said without looking up. The recordings, the footage, the statements. I kept hoping I'd find something that would explain it away, some context that would make it okay. He finally met my eyes. There's no context that makes it okay, is there? No, there isn't. I called the jeweler this morning. I pretended I was interested in buying back the ring. He confirmed everything, even pulled up the security footage for me. Tyler's voice cracked. She was laughing, Liv. She sold our grandmother's ring and laughed about it. I'm sorry. I also called the tech company in Seattle, asked to speak to Madison Reed in their marketing department. They confirmed her start date, March 4th. He rubbed his face. She was planning to tell me after the honeymoon. Probably on some beach somewhere, when I'd be too happy and relaxed to fight back. Great news, honey. I got my dream job. We're moving across the country. Pack your bags. Before I could respond, we heard voices in the hallway. Madison's distinct laugh echoed through the door. She's here, Tyler said, standing up. Stay in the corner. Don't say anything unless I ask you to. I need to do this myself. Madison swept into the office, designer dress perfect, makeup flawless, smile bright. The smile vanished when she saw me. What is she doing here? Madison's voice turned icy. Tyler, we agreed to meet alone. Sit down, Madison. Tyler's voice was calm but hard. I don't want to sit. Not with her here. Tyler, baby, we need to talk about what your sister's been saying. She's been spreading vicious lies. Where's my grandmother's ring? Madison froze. For just a second, her mask slipped. Then she recovered. What are you talking about? I told you I wanted a different style. You understood. I asked where it was, not why you didn't use it. Where is it? Tuck. I returned it to your parents. I thought they'd want to keep it in the family. Tyler picked up his tablet and turned it toward her. The security footage from the jeweler played in silence. Madison, laughing. Madison, signing paperwork. Madison, accepting payment. The color drained from her face. Tyler, I can explain. You sold a family heirloom for bachelorette party money. What's there to explain? I was going to tell you. The timing never seemed right. And you were so attached to that old ring, I knew you'd overreact. Overreact? Tyler's laugh was bitter. Tell me about Seattle. Madison's eyes widened. How did I find out about the job you accepted without discussing it with me? The job that requires us to move 3,000 miles away from my family and my career? The job you were planning to spring on me after the wedding? It's an incredible opportunity. I was going to present it as something amazing for both of us. You could find work there. It's not a big deal. You told Chelsea, and I quote, he'll have to choose between his career and our marriage. And we all know what he'll choose. You plan to manipulate me into moving by making me feel guilty. Madison's face flushed red. Chelsea had no right to. Chelsea didn't tell me. Derek overheard you, along with 2 other vendors. All 3 provided statements. You're spying on me? Having vendors spy on me? Madison's shock was turning to anger. This is insane. What's insane is planning to isolate me from my family, calling my mother suffocating and my father passive-aggressive, saying you wanted to move across the country so you wouldn't have to deal with them anymore. They are suffocating. Your mother calls you twice a day. Your father always questions my decisions. And your sister, she pointed at me, has been against us from the beginning. She's jealous that someone else is the most important person in your life now. My sister saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. Tyler stood up. The wedding is canceled. The engagement is over. I want you out of my apartment by tomorrow morning. Madison stared at him, mouth open. Then she started crying. Big, dramatic tears. Tyler, no, please, I love you. We can work through this. Pre-wedding stress makes people say crazy things. I'll explain everything. There's nothing to work through. You lied. You stole. You manipulated. And you planned to continue lying and manipulating throughout our marriage. He pulled off his engagement ring and set it on the desk. We're done. You can't do this. My parents spent $40,000 on this wedding. 200 people are coming tomorrow. The rehearsal dinner is in 2 hours. Then I suggest you start making phone calls. Tyler walked to the door and opened it. Goodbye, Madison. Madison looked at me, her tears replaced by pure hatred. This is your fault. You poisoned him against me. You couldn't stand to see him happy. I couldn't stand to watch you destroy him, I said calmly. There's a difference. Madison grabbed her purse and stormed out, her heels clicking furiously down the hallway. Tyler closed the door and leaned against it, eyes closed. It's done, he whispered. It's really done. I walked over and hugged him. He held on tight, shaking. Thank you, he said into my shoulder. For being brave enough to show me the truth. For risking our relationship. To save me from her. That's what family does. We stood there for a long time, 2 siblings who'd survived a battle neither of us had wanted to fight. And somewhere outside, Madison was making the phone calls that would cancel a wedding that should never have happened. The next few hours were chaotic. Tyler and I sat in Derek's office making calls while Madison's angry voicemails piled up on both our phones. My parents arrived first, Mom pulling Tyler into a fierce hug while Dad stood nearby with tears in his eyes. You're sure about this? Dad asked Tyler quietly. Calling off a wedding is serious business. I'm sure. I watched her sell Mom's ring on camera. She was planning our entire future without telling me. I can't marry someone like that. Mom wiped her eyes. We'll get through this together. That's what families do. Tyler spent the evening calling guests to cancel. Each conversation was painful. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Yes, the wedding is off. Personal. Reasons. Thank you for understanding. Some people were supportive. Others were clearly annoyed about wasted travel plans. Tyler took it all with surprising grace. Madison's parents called around 8 p.m. I heard Tyler's side of the conversation from the hallway. Mr. Reed, I understand you're upset about the money, but your daughter sold a family heirloom that wasn't hers to sell. She accepted a job in another state without discussing it with me. She planned to manipulate me into moving away from my family. His voice was steady. I have documentation of everything. If you'd like to see it, I'm happy to share. But my decision is final. Derek arranged for us to use the estate's conference room overnight. Tyler didn't want to go back to the apartment he shared with Madison. None of us wanted to leave him alone. Around midnight, Tyler's best friend from college, Nathan Brooks, showed up with pizza and beer. Heard you torpedoed the wedding, Nathan said, dropping the boxes on the conference table. About time. Madison was always weird with you, man. Super controlling. Why didn't you say something? Tyler asked. I did. Remember when I suggested you guys do couples counseling before the wedding? You told me Madison said counseling was for people with real problems. Nathan opened a beer. That's when I knew she had you wrapped around her finger. Tyler rubbed his face. How did I miss all the signs? Love makes you stupid, Nathan said simply. But you figured it out before you signed the papers. That's what matters. Saturday morning arrived with unexpected news. Derek knocked on the conference room door at 7 a.m., holding his phone. You're going to want to see this, he said, showing us a social media post from Madison's account. The post was a long, dramatic explanation of why the wedding was canceled. Madison painted herself as the victim of a controlling family who couldn't accept that their son was growing up. She claimed Tyler's sister had fabricated evidence because of sibling jealousy. She said she'd tried everything to make peace but was forced to walk away from a toxic situation. She's getting ahead of the narrative, I said. Classic PR move. Tyler read through the comments. Most of Madison's friends were posting supportive messages. calling our family terrible names. But then I noticed something interesting. Chelsea Brennan, Madison's maid of honor, had commented, "Madison, this isn't what happened and you know it. I can't support you lying like this." Chelsea turned on her. Tyler said, surprised. His phone rang. It was Chelsea. Tyler put her on speaker. "Tyler, I'm so sorry. Madison called me last night, ranting about your sister ruining everything. She told me what really happened, about selling the ring and the Seattle job. I had no idea she was planning all that." Chelsea's voice shook. "I heard her say those things at the venue, but I thought it was just venting. I didn't realize she was serious. When she started lying on social media, I couldn't stay quiet anymore." "Thank you for speaking up," Tyler said. "I'm telling everyone the truth. Madison's not who I thought she was." "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." Chelsea paused. "Also, she left her phone unlocked at my place last week. I saw texts to that Seattle company. She'd been planning this move since August, way before she accepted their offer." After Chelsea hung up, more people started commenting on Madison's post, contradicting her story. Apparently, Madison had burned through several friendships with her controlling behavior, and people were finally comfortable speaking up. "Internet justice," Nathan said, scrolling through the comments. "Not always reliable, but in this case, pretty satisfying." Later that morning, Derek pulled me aside. "I have something for you." He handed me a small velvet box. "The couple from Austin who bought your grandmother's ring? They saw the news about the canceled wedding. They did some research, found out the ring's history, and felt terrible. They're returning it. No refund needed. They said a family heirloom should stay with the family." I opened the box. There it was. Grandma's ring, exactly as I remembered. The Art Deco setting, the inscription inside the band. I started crying right there in the hallway. "How did you find them?" I managed to ask. "The jeweler kept their contact information." I explained the situation. "They're good people. They understood." Derek smiled. "Not every story has to end badly." I brought the ring to Tyler. His face crumpled when he saw it. "I thought it was gone forever," he whispered. "Some things come back when they're meant to," I said. That afternoon, Tyler finally went back to his apartment with Nathan and my dad to collect his belongings. Madison had already moved out, taking more than half the furniture and leaving the place in disarray. But Tyler didn't care. He was just relieved it was over. Over the next few weeks, Tyler moved into a new apartment and slowly rebuilt his life. He started therapy to work through the manipulation and emotional abuse he'd experienced. He reconnected with friends Madison had pushed away. He threw himself into his work with renewed energy, no longer worrying about a secret Seattle move. One evening, about a month after the canceled wedding, Tyler showed up at my apartment with takeout and wine. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," he said as we ate on my couch. "About how close I came to making a catastrophic mistake. About how you risked our relationship to save me. That's what sisters do," I said. "No, not all sisters. Some would have stayed quiet to keep the peace. Some would have let me make the mistake and said, 'I told you so' during the divorce." He set down his wine glass. "You put everything on the line. You gathered evidence like you were building a legal case. You stood up to Madison when she tried to manipulate me. You didn't back down even when I might have hated. Take you for it. I couldn't watch you marry her, not knowing what I knew. My therapist says Madison's behavior shows classic signs of emotional abuse and control. The isolation tactics, the manipulation, the financial deception. If we'd gotten married, it would have only gotten worse." He took a deep breath. "You saved me from years of misery, Liv. Probably saved me from a messy divorce and custody battles over kids who would have grown up watching their dad get controlled and diminished. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe. Or maybe I would have spent 20 years making excuses for her behavior, telling myself marriage was supposed to be hard, believing her when she said our family was the problem." He shook his head. "I don't want to think about that timeline." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Tyler pulled something from his pocket. A small box. "Grandma's ring," he said, opening it. "I want you to hold on to it. When I meet someone who actually deserves it, someone who values family and honesty and partnership, then I'll ask for it back. But until then, it's safer with you." I took the box, feeling the weight of 3 generations of love and commitment. Thank you for trusting me with it, I said. Thank you for everything. Tyler raised his wine glass. To sisters who tell the truth even when it's hard. To the family who saves you from yourself. And dodging bullets before they hit. We clinked glasses, and I knew that whatever challenges came next, our bond was stronger than ever. 3 months later, I got a text from Derek. Just wanted you to know Madison tried to book our venue for another wedding. Different groom. We politely declined. Some red flags you don't ignore twice. I showed the text to Tyler. He laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in months. Poor guy, he said. I hope someone in his life loves him enough to tell him the truth. And as I looked at my brother, healthy and happy and free, I knew we'd finally both learned something valuable. Love should never require you to sacrifice your family, your identity, or your truth. Real love makes you better, not smaller. It brings people together instead of tearing them apart. Tyler deserved that kind of love. And now, finally, he was free to find it. 4 months after the canceled wedding, I thought the Madison saga was finally behind us. Tyler was thriving in therapy, our family dinners had returned to normal, and life felt peaceful again. That peace shattered on a Tuesday morning when my office phone rang. Olivia Jackson, Crisis Management. I answered. Miss Jackson, this is attorney Robert Brennan from Brennan & Associates. I represent Madison Reed in a defamation lawsuit she's filing against you and your brother Tyler Jackson. My blood ran cold. Excuse me? My client alleges that you and your brother conspired to fabricate evidence and spread false information about her character, resulting in significant emotional distress, reputational damage, and financial losses. She's seeking $200,000 in damages. I forced myself to stay professional. Everything we shared with Tyler was documented, verified, and true. We have multiple witness statements, security footage, and transaction records. My client disputes the authenticity of your so-called evidence. You'll be served with papers within the week. I suggest you retain legal counsel. He hung up before I could respond. I immediately called Tyler. He'd received the same call 10 minutes earlier and was already spiraling. She's suing us for $200,000 because we told the truth? His voice was shaking. How is that even legal? It's probably not about winning. It's about intimidation and revenge. She wants to punish us for ruining her perfect wedding narrative. I grabbed my laptop, but we documented everything properly. We have Derek, Rachel, Jennifer, the jeweler, Chelsea's statement. Madison can't win a defamation case when everything we said was true. Even defending ourselves will cost thousands in legal fees, Tyler said bitterly. That's probably what she wants. To drain our savings, fighting something she knows is frivolous. He was right. This was strategic harassment dressed up as a lawsuit. That evening, my parents, Tyler, and I met with Amanda Foster, a defense attorney Dad's colleague had recommended. Amanda was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, and refreshingly blunt. This is a slap suit, Amanda said after reviewing our documentation. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. She's not trying to win. She's trying to silence you and punish you financially. The good news? This state has strong anti-slap laws. What does that mean for us? Mom asked. It means we can file a motion to dismiss based on your evidence being truthful and your speech being protected. If we win the motion, Madison will be responsible for your legal fees. But we need to be thorough. Every witness needs to be prepared to testify. Every document needs to be authenticated. Over the next 2 weeks, Amanda built our defense like a fortress. Derek provided a detailed affidavit about overhearing Madison's conversations. Rachel and Jennifer submitted sworn statements. The jeweler testified about the ring transaction. Chelsea agreed to testify about Madison's pattern of manipulation and lying, but the most damaging evidence came from an unexpected source. Nathan called Tyler one afternoon, his voice urgent. Dude, you need to see this. Madison's ex-boyfriend from college just posted something on Facebook. The post was from someone named Brian Lawson. He'd written about his own experience with Madison 5 years ago. She'd isolated him from his friends, controlled his finances, and lied about being pregnant to keep him from breaking up with her. When he finally left, she'd tried to sue him for emotional distress too. That case had been dismissed. She did this before, Tyler said, stunned. This is a pattern. Amanda contacted Brian immediately. He was more than willing to provide testimony about Madison's history of manipulation, financial deception, and retaliatory legal action. This is exactly what we needed, Amanda told us. A pattern of behavior. Madison's not a victim of slander. She's a serial manipulator who punishes anyone who exposes her. The preliminary hearing arrived on a cold February morning. Tyler and I sat in the courthouse hallway, both in our best professional clothes, trying not to look as nervous as we felt. Madison arrived with her attorney, wearing a conservative dress and minimal makeup. She'd styled herself to look sympathetic and wounded. When she saw us, she looked away quickly, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "Performance of the year," Tyler muttered. Inside the courtroom, Madison's attorney presented her case first. He painted Madison as a loving fiancé who'd been victimized by a jealous sister and a manipulated brother. He claimed our evidence was fabricated or taken out of context. He showed photos of Madison crying, emails from distressed wedding guests, and bills from therapy sessions. Then Amanda stood up. She methodically presented our evidence: security footage of Madison selling the ring, authenticated transaction records, Derek's detailed testimony about what he'd overheard, Rachel and Jennifer's statements, the Seattle job confirmation, Chelsea's testimony about Madison's lies on social media. And then, the final blow: Brian Lawson's testimony about Madison's identical behavior 5 years earlier, including her previous frivolous lawsuit. The judge, an older woman with steel gray hair and no patience for nonsense, listened carefully. When both sides finished, she took off her glasses and addressed Madison's attorney directly. "Counselor, your client sold a family heirloom without permission, accepted employment in another state without discussing it with her fiancé, and made demonstrably false statements about the defendants on social media. The defendants have provided substantial evidence supporting the truth of their statements. This appears to be a retaliatory lawsuit designed to punish them for exposing your client's deceptive behavior." Madison's attorney tried to object, but the judge held up her hand. "I'm granting the defendant's motion to dismiss. Furthermore, I'm ordering your client to pay the defendant's legal fees pursuant to our anti-SLAPP statute. If Miss Reed continues to harass the defendants through further legal action, I will consider sanctions." She looked at Madison. "Miss Reed, I suggest you move forward with your life and leave this family alone." The gavel came down. It was over. Madison's face went bright red. She stood abruptly, knocking her chair backward, and stormed out of the courtroom. Her attorney hurried after her, looking embarrassed. Tyler grabbed my hand and squeezed. Neither of us said anything. We didn't need to. Outside the courthouse, Amanda shook our hands. "Madison will have to pay approximately $15,000 to cover your legal fees. It's not the $200,000 she tried to extort from you, but it's something. And more importantly, this is now public record. If she tries this with anyone else, they'll be able to find this case." "Thank you," Tyler said, "for everything. Thank Olivia. She documented everything perfectly from the start. Without that evidence, this could have gone very differently." Amanda smiled at me. "You should consider law school." "You think like an attorney." After Amanda left, Tyler and I stood on the courthouse steps. Spring sunshine broke through the clouds, warming our faces. "Is it really over?" Tyler asked. "Or is she going to keep coming after us?" The judge was pretty clear. If Madison tries anything else, she'll face sanctions. And now there's a legal record of her behavior. She's done, Tyler. She lost. Tyler took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "You know what's weird? I don't even feel angry anymore. Just relieved. And I'm grateful. A year ago, I was planning to marry her. Now I'm free, and I have legal confirmation that I made the right choice. Plus, she has to pay our legal fees." I added, "That's pretty satisfying." He laughed. "Yeah, that doesn't hurt." We walked to the parking lot together. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "Heard the news from Amanda. Congratulations. Justice served. Also, wanted you to know Madison called yesterday asking if we'd reconsider hosting her wedding. I told her we're permanently booked." I showed Tyler the message. He shook his head in amazement. "She's really getting married again? Already?" Apparently, some people never learn. I opened my car door, but that's not our problem anymore. No, Tyler agreed, smiling. It's really not. That night, our whole family celebrated at Giovanni's, the same restaurant where Tyler and I had our difficult conversation months ago. But this time, there were no tears, just laughter, relief, and the kind of peace that comes from knowing you fought for what was right and won. Dad raised his wine glass. To Olivia, for her courage. To Tyler, for his strength. To family, for standing together. And to truth, which always wins eventually, even if it takes a while. We clinked glasses, and I looked around at the faces I loved most. Tyler, smiling genuinely for the first time in months. Mom and Dad, holding hands across the table. This was what mattered. This was what was worth fighting for. Madison had tried to tear our family apart. Instead, she'd only made us stronger. And that, perhaps, was the sweetest victory of all. 1 year after the lawsuit was dismissed, Tyler called me with genuine excitement in his voice for the first time since before Madison. I need to tell you something, he said. And I'm a little nervous about how you'll react. My protective instincts immediately kicked in. What's going on? I've been seeing someone. Her name is Sarah Mitchell. We met at a fundraiser 3 months ago. She's a pediatric nurse, volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends, and she's completely different from before. He paused. I want you to meet her, but I need you to promise you won't go into crisis management mode and investigate her entire life. I laughed despite myself. I promise, but can I at least Google her? Already did it for you. Clean social media, no red flags, volunteers at 3 different charities, and her friends actually like her. Revolutionary concept, right? We met Sarah the following Sunday at brunch. She was petite with warm brown eyes and an easy smile. Within 5 minutes, she'd asked about my job, complimented Mom's earrings, and made Dad laugh with a story about a mishap at the hospital. She was genuine, self-deprecating, and clearly crazy about Tyler. But what struck me most was how Tyler acted around her. He was relaxed, smiling, making his own decisions, without checking her reaction first. When Sarah excused herself to take a call from the hospital, Tyler leaned forward. So, what do you think? I think she's wonderful. More importantly, I think you're wonderful when you're with her. You're yourself again. Mom reached across the table and squeezed Tyler's hand. She makes you happy. That's all we've ever wanted. When Sarah returned, she jumped right back into conversation like she'd been part of our family for years. She asked about family traditions, shared stories about her own close relationship with her siblings, and when Tyler mentioned he needed to leave early for a work commitment, she encouraged him to stay and enjoy time with us. Work will still be there in an hour, she said. Family brunch only happens once a week. That simple statement told me everything I needed to know. Sarah valued family. She didn't see us as competition or obstacles. She saw us as part of what made Tyler who he was. 6 months later, Tyler asked if we could meet at the coffee shop near my office. When I arrived, he was already there, fidgeting with a small box. Is that what I think it is? I asked, sitting down. He opened the box. Grandma's ring sat inside, polished and gleaming. I want to ask Sarah to marry me, and I want to use this ring, but only if you think it's right. Only if you believe Sarah is worthy of it. I felt tears prick my eyes. Tyler, Sarah is everything Madison wasn't. She's kind, genuine, and she makes you better instead of smaller. Grandma would have loved her. You're sure? Because after everything with Madison, I'm terrified of making another mistake. What if I'm missing red flags again? You're not. Sarah doesn't isolate you. She doesn't lie. She doesn't manipulate or control. She encourages your relationships with us, with your friends, with your career. That's not just the absence of red flags, Tyler. That's what healthy love actually looks like. He took a shaky breath. I'm going to propose. Next weekend. We're going to the botanical gardens where we had our first real conversation. I have a whole speech planned. She's going to say yes. How do you know? Because she looks at you the way you deserve to be looked at. Like you're someone worth building a life with, not someone to be controlled and changed. The following Monday, Tyler called me at 7 in the morning. She said yes. Liv, she said yes. I could hear Sarah laughing in the background. She's still crying, Tyler said. She loves the ring. She loves the story. She said she feels honored to wear something with so much family history. Can I talk to her? I asked. Sarah came on the line, her voice thick with happy tears. Olivia, this ring is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And knowing its history, knowing what you all went through to get it back, I promise I'll treasure it. And I promise I'll treasure your brother. Welcome to the family, Sarah. The engagement party was everything the previous one hadn't been. Sarah's family meshed perfectly with ours. There was laughter, genuine joy, and no tension whatsoever. Sarah introduced me to her sister, Emma, who immediately pulled me aside. Tyler told us everything about his previous engagement. What you did for him, gathering evidence and standing up to that woman even when it could have damaged your relationship. Emma smiled. I just wanted to say thank you. My sister is marrying a good man who has a sister brave enough to protect him. That means everything. During the toasts, Tyler stood up and raised his glass. I want to thank everyone for being here. Especially my parents, who taught me what real love looks like, and especially my sister, Olivia. He looked directly at me. 1.5 years ago, you risked our relationship to save me from a terrible mistake. You stood firm when I was angry. You documented the truth when I didn't want to see it. And you never gave up on me. His voice cracked slightly. Because of you, I'm standing here today with a woman who actually deserves this ring, this family, and hopefully me. So thank you, Liv. For being the sister everyone wishes they had. The room erupted in applause. I wiped my eyes, laughing and crying at the same time. Later, as guests mingled, Derek Sullivan appeared at my elbow. I'd invited him after everything he'd done to help us. I've worked hundreds of weddings, Derek said, watching Tyler and Sarah dance. And I can always tell which couples will make it. These two? They're going to be just fine. Thank you for everything you did, I said, for making that phone call. For testifying, for being willing to get involved. I told you I have a sister. I'd hope someone would do the same for her. He paused. By the way, Madison did get married. Different venue, different groom. I heard through the industry grapevine that it lasted 8 months before the guy filed for divorce, citing emotional abuse and financial manipulation. Some people never change, I said quietly. No, but some people escape. Your brother did, thanks to you. As the party wound down, I found myself standing with my parents, watching Tyler and Sarah say goodbye to guests. They moved together naturally, finishing each other's sentences, supporting each other effortlessly. You saved him, Mom said softly. When I think about what his life would have been like if he'd married Madison, I just showed him the truth. He made the choice himself. Dad put his arm around my shoulders. That's what family does. We show each other the truth, even when it's hard, even when it risks everything. Because love isn't about keeping the peace at any cost. It's about protecting each other. 6 months later, I stood in a beautiful garden venue as Tyler and Sarah exchanged vows. Sarah wore a simple white dress and Grandma's ring, which caught the sunlight and sparkled like a promise. Tyler's voice was steady as he promised to love, honor, and cherish her. No manipulation, no control, just 2 people choosing each other freely. During the reception, Sarah pulled me aside. I have something for you. She handed me a small wrapped box. Inside was a delicate necklace with a pendant that read, Sisters by chance, friends by choice. Tyler told me you already have a sister. I said, confused. I do, but now I have 2. You protected Tyler before you even knew me. You made sure he was free to find real love. I'll never forget that. She hugged me tight. Thank you for being the kind of person who fights for the people she loves. As I watched Tyler dance with his new wife, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about them both, I realized something important. Standing up to Madison hadn't just saved Tyler from a bad marriage. It taught both of us what real love should look like. It showed us that healthy relationships bring people together instead of tearing them apart. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is tell someone you love the truth, even when it might cost you everything. Because in the end, a real family doesn't just support your choices. Real family protects you from making choices that will destroy you. That's the difference between keeping the peace and keeping someone safe. And I'd make the same choice again in a heartbeat. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.